Go first, you got your hand up first.
It's easy.
We'll go to
Yeah.
Ronde. Go ahead, Jake.
Either way. Okay, so my question, and just comment first, is that I think that I'm happy to hear there's a awareness and acknowledgement that you guys can't do everything yourselves and looking beyond yourselves to establish some kind of structure, some kind of methodology for making smarter decisions about both community economic development and tribal investments, which are two separate things. I think we need to do a better job as both the general membership and as leaders, as distinguishing between the two. Just my opinion on that is because they're very different things, and we sometimes get them balled up into one, kind of catch-all that doesn't necessarily, go through the differences. But to get to my actual question, can you please give the general membership a sense of what the government-to-government relationships are like with other tribes and with state and federal governments? And when you have experienced council members who act in a professional manner, as the current council does, how important is that to the overall success of our tribe? And how do you see the intertribal relationships with our relatives and our neighbors local to us improving over time? So it's kind of a two-part question. Sorry if it's too, I can repeat it.
No, it's good. Did you guys get the question? It's essentially, how do you view and participate in the government relationship with other tribes and federal, state agencies? And how do you view it improving over time? Let's go, Cheryl.
Thank you, Jake. The tribe is about relationship building. Always has been from the very beginning. When we worked on restoration, we had to build a groundswell of support. And with that, we created partners not only with tribal governments, state agencies, but also with community members. And I remember that the largest supportive group that the tribe had was the churches. They hardly get mentioned anymore, but they were really the backbone who helped financially as well as writing letters and seeing the justice of what we were talking about. And that then took other people, they brought other people into the fold and said, this is an unjust thing that happened. So that ability to develop relationships is very important to what we do. As far as the relationship with other tribes, I say this over and over again, there have been the belief that other tribes, Oregon tribes, came and testified with us when we were being restored. That's not true. That's not true at all. It was Grand Ronde tribal members who went to DC on 2 or 3 occasions, and the funds that supported them was from our elders who baked, had yard sales, who sold their goods, and by passing of the hat, those were the funds that got our leaders to Washington, D.C. There was support collectively from the affiliated tribes of the Northwest Indians who said, when our members went forward and said, this is an injustice, we were terminated, it's bad policy, and it needs to be overturned. And the tribes there supported that. So that was the support from all of the tribes of the Northwest, and that did happen. They also went to the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board and asked for a resolution similar to that. And that was passed there as well, because they knew that if we were restored, they would have to share their health dollars with us, and they supported that. So I don't want to minimize, the role of other tribes in where we are, but of course, we do look to other tribes for support. Right now, there are venues that we're working on that are with other tribes. One is the Chemawa School dilemma that's going on. I and the chair of the Siletz tribe are charged with pulling those meetings together and coming out with a decision to present to our senators back in Washington, D.C. And so we are pulling together that meeting. There are other meetings that are occurring where all of the tribes participate on the, for the University of Oregon. There's an advisory board that Chris, our vice chair, sits on among all the other tribes of Oregon as well. There are many, I sit on the UW board, Native American Advisory Board up in Seattle. But there are multiple different committees that we serve on. The Oregon tribes meet periodically, and the last two were held by Grand Ronde, and every tribe attended. So there are great efforts there. As far as other departments, we work hand in hand, some better than others, but it's really building relationships. We have a presence here in the city of Portland. We meet with the mayor, we meet with Metro, we meet with the key players of the city of Portland and advancing the issues of the Grand Ronde tribe. So, but there are many issues that surround many of the decision making. But the one thing I'll say about Grand Ronde is we stay at the table. We do not walk away. We stay there. We're cordial. We're hospitable people. We don't go in with our guns out and say, hey, we're here to, we understand there's a way to do business. And I believe that our ancestors showed us that the way that we really engage in battle is the friendship always first. Let's build that. Let's find common ground. And yes, there are difficulties yet, but I believe we can overcome them. Thank you, Jay.
Sure. Brenda.
Well, as I had mentioned earlier, this current tribal council is working really well together, professionally, respectfully, and one of our goals, one of our focuses is to do that with the other governments, with the other tribes, and so we're working very hard on that. Some of us have I think each one of us have different personal relationships with other tribal leaders. We're constantly reaching out to them, and sometimes on the personal level, it's easier to talk with another tribal leader on something so contentious as like treaty rights, hunting and fishing rights. And so we kind of use our personal, not use, but we use our personal relationships to talk with the other leaders and see if we can't come at it at different angles. With new council comes new relationships and new opportunities to improve the old ones and build them. Cheryl had alluded to a couple of things we were working on. We also, tribal council member Michael Langley just went to DC, went up on the hill, went with Cow Creek, Cowlitz, and Siletz. All four of us went together, which I think is very impressive. And we talked about police funding for terminated tribes. So we are working very hard. It is a priority for us, and I look forward to mending some of the relationships and creating new relationships.
All right. Thank you, Jade, for that question. Because it is very. I think one of the important aspects of tribal council. So as a government official, as an elected official, is how you're recognized in the outside world. That I hope our membership looks to us as friends and another tribal member also as we do our job here for the tribe. I sit on 8 boards outside of Grand Ronde, mainly in the Portland area. And one of the aspects I think that we will bring to the table is to educate our government officials and on these boards and everything who the Grand Ronde people are. So and it's in a respectful way, you know, that we, like Cheryl says, we don't come into the room with our guns, you know, loaded and ready to, you know, go off as soon as somebody says, no, you don't, whatever. So, and that's what I think what Brenda has talks about, when you have personal relationships with people, you know, and so that we have set up quarterly meetings with the Portland mayor. We've set up meetings with Metro Council. You know, we've met with the Clackamas County Commissioners, you know, in this area. And it is about, because just as the tribal government changes, so do the elected officials in the outside area. And so it's an ongoing education of who we are as Grand Ronde people, that our area, these are ceded lands from there. And so you continue to build relationships, you know, we're respectful of the other tribes also, as their usual and accustomed area that they would have. And so we also hired a team called Hilltop Solutions that is based here in Portland, that is here all the time, and that they are the ones that that go to some of the meetings that we can attend, and so too, and present, you know, Grand Ronde's, you know, is a forum for us to do that, to know that we're being represented at the table, you know. And so those are the things. I know when I came on, you know, I think Cheryl's has wonderful involvements on with EPA, you know, about our Superfund site, you know, cleanup for the Willamette River, you know. And so these are the types of things that, like we usually say, is that if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu, you know. And so if we don't, and if we aren't there, because some people say it has to be important that we just don't sit behind a desk, and where our members think that, you know, well, you need to be there and make the decisions and stuff too. It is so important also to be at a table in the Portland area, in the Salem area. You know, Denise is going to DC next week. Michael just got back from DC, you know. And so those are the important parts about being able to shake the hand of your Oregon delegations, of your congressman, your congresswoman, you know, your senators, you know, the mayors, you know, the governor of the state that we have relationship with, you know. And it's about that. And it's not about pushing your way in. It's about being invited in. And being invited in is when, just like any of you would do, you invite your friends to your house, you know, whatever. You know what, we invite them to come and speak to tribal council. See where we're at. Look what we've done. Look at the infrastructure of our tribe. You know, we're not the poor little Indians and everything else, and so that they can come and pat us on the head, you know. It's about saying, no, this is what is important to us. This is what's important to our tribal members, you know what, and this is what we need, you know. And we do it, but we do it very respectful. We come to the table with solutions, not questions. We come and we bring them, this is what we can do, and this is how we can help, you know. As when we sit at those tables there and speak to your residents. And I just want you to know that our council today represents each and every one of you very well.
Thank you, John. Linda, we're going to go to here, and then we'll go to one last question in the back. So Linda has one.
Recently, I met with one of our employees at employment at the HR building, and in long hour and a half discussion about lots of things. And I asked him why they would hire a tribal member over and over again when there were other Indian people that were married to tribal members and was head of household in that family, and bypassed them. And yet these 4 people kept getting hired over and over again, and they wouldn't stay. And so I asked, is there paperwork or any kind of follow-up? Like, say if a person says, well, I left my job because my car wasn't running. I left my job because I didn't have child care. I left my job because I'm chemical dependent. Well, when they come back to be hired, there was no documentation or no proof that they had addressed the issue. but yet they were hired over and over again. And yet there's a department that runs shorthanded. And of course, I have a whole issue about being bored at work, but, and I brought it up about how much impact can the council have, because I was told that if the council were to come in and change some of the rules on how it's done, being able to look at their file, their whole file and their employment history, instead of just right then and there, if they were able to open that up a bit and look beyond the tribal member who just gets a job because they want it, right, at the moment. They get enough to buy drugs or they get enough to do whatever and off they go. And they keep coming back and back when we're bypassing another Indian person who lives in that community, is married into that family and is supporting tribal children, and they get passed over. So how do you guys think that you could address that issue? And say if you have a business here in Portland, and there's Native people here that are married to our tribal members, okay, and they get passed over because this other person comes and takes up that spot for a month or 2 weeks or whatever, and then leaves, gone a week or two, and then comes back. So how do you think you could address that issue?
Yes, let me go first. But I know what you're talking about is called nepotism, right?
Well, it's not maybe nepotism, it's just that, do you know who my dad is, or do you know who my family is, and you don't hire me.
So let's have
I'll-
John. John's gonna go first, then Brenda, and then we'll have Cheryl go at the end. So John, go ahead.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Linda, for that question. And you're also touching on a very sensitive
Yes.
area from that. And so I guess how can I put this? So when HR issues come up, it's not proper for us to get involved in HR issues.
And yet they tell us that you have to make that decision.
See, and that's the thing. And so what we have is we have an executive person that oversees HR. That would be our GM and everything. So if we have concerns, we can only direct our executive team members from there to address it, because it is not ethical of us to get involved in personnel or HR issues from that.
Well, what if
You know,
we as
from
a
that.
tribal member don't have confidence in your GM?
Well, that's unfortunate. Then you as a tribal member can also, then you can voice that to us, but it's like.
I'll be there Wednesday.
But it is, and that's unfortunate, because that's the way it's our ethical, the standards ordinance applies. And so we cannot get involved in day-to-day operations for that. We cannot micromanage, it could become an abuse of power under us as an
Oh,
elected.
do we know?
I know, so we want to be ethical in our job, in our standing and so too. So we would like to take these issues that we do here, but we have to do that, or if somebody comes to us, it's unfortunate we have to say, have you followed the process?
Well, I'm a follower.
See, like that. And so it's a very, very touchy subject for us as your tribal leaders to do that, because we develop policy. So if we can see then that a policy issue has arisen where it is not conducive to the benefiting, our membership, or that we have a tribal hiring preference. Through that, we have a tarot program that looks at that, but we cannot get involved in HR personnel files.
Well,
isn't
it also a policy? I mean, if you could change that policy, that you pick the best candidate that is native.
That's right. And those are the things that we're discussing. So I don't want you to feel like that I'm just trying to sidestep the question, or I'm not trying to give you an answer, but have faith in us, is that we are, as Brenda was noticing, we want the best candidate for the position. We don't, just because it's somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, and that gives them the job, we're only setting our tribal member up for failure, you know, and that's not it. We want to see it grow, be productive, you know, in all departments that we see. So I thank you for the question.
Thanks, John. Brendan?
That's a great question, Linda, and we've heard it several times. So I can understand your frustration. So it has been 4 years, I believe, since we merged our HR. 4. I'm getting to the age where I forget. So I'm going to go with 4, and somebody can correct me later. So and in that 4 years, we have never taken a step back and said, okay, so how is this working? What's working well and what's not? So we are doing that. Since I've been on council, I have wanted to look at that. I want to make sure that we are applying policies and practices consistently, fairly. It's hard, it's hard, but we can do it. I don't think we can just sit back and say, well, it's hard because everybody knows somebody. But, so I want to ensure that we're being consistent, that we are putting the best person in the position, and I advocate for employing our tribal members, but sometimes, there is, at one point or another, there may be a non-tribal member that may be better for that. So then we have to really look at that and be honest with ourselves, and if we ever do something like that, set up a strategy to mentor our tribal members into that position, because it is my goal to have tribal members in our, especially our management positions. So I want to, I had mentioned before, I don't like setting our employees, whether tribal member or not, up for failure. So we got to be really good about that. We have to make consistent and well-educated decisions when it comes to our employees. So we are, like I said, looking at the HR. Our HR department to see what is working well, to see if we need to make any adjustments. And I'm pretty sure that we probably will.
Sure.
Thank you, Linda. As John described, our Constitution is laid out in several areas. All powers of the tribe are the responsibility of tribal council. We've delegated the area of the executive management branch to the general manager. So the powers of hiring, setting up personnel, the whole organization falls to the general manager, who has the responsibility then to develop the hiring practices policy. And so there is an area that we can look at in terms of setting the policy for preference in hiring. Of course, we have TARO that includes tribal members and Native Americans, both. So I believe that if there are factors presently for hiring, the only exclusions are the part that's very difficult to overcome for tribal members who were in an employment position with the tribe, is when there are certain actions that they did that would exclude them from a regular hiring process. And those are mostly, criminal acts or those kind of things. So absent of that, when you're talking about lack of transportation or lack of childcare, those kind of issues folks can overcome, but you're asking the question, why don't they look to see those issues have been resolved, so that as they move into this new job, if they are offered the job, that they'll be successful. And I think those are pretty standard questions that could be implemented in something that we could ask our general manager to include. Again, the decision would be his. But I believe that that most of the direct hires do take seriously what the tribal council does say and ask. So that it's an area that, thank you for the question, that can be brought up and discussion be had about it. And I know, all right. Thank you, Linda.
Thanks, Yolanda. So real quick logistic check. So Adrian, I'm gonna take your third question and actually use, oh, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you to you three. I don't know about the rest of you in this room that feel the energy that's coming from these three. It's positive energy. And thank you for your intellectual and heartfelt answers to our questions. I really commend you guys. You guys are really doing a good job. Thank you so much.
So Adrian, I'm gonna use your third question as our lead-off question next week in Eugene. So we'll watch that Eugene forum to see your third question. But I'm gonna give the last question to Mia, so she can ask the final question of our candidates. They've been going for almost 2 hours, so I don't want to make them go any longer than after this question. So Mia.
So I'm asking this not only as a tribal member, but also as the secretary for the editorial board for Smoke Signals. So for the membership here, if you do not know, at the end of 2016, early 2017, Tribal Council passed the Free Press Ordinance, officially establishing Smoke Signals as a free and independent press, which essentially means that Smoke Signals is a freestanding newspaper media organization that is no longer held to the input or impact of Tribal Council. So my question to the candidates here is, do you support the Free Press Ordinance? If so, why? If not, why? And where do you see or want to see Smoke Signals develop over the next 5 years?
Okay, great question. So do you support the Free Press Ordinance? And if not, why not? And where would you like to see Smoke Signals be in 5 years? So take a moment to think about that. Cheryl, go ahead.
I support it. I did support it when that that issue came up. As far as where we may be in the next 5 years, one of the things that worries me is really newspapers are almost becoming passé. And that's worrisome, because then what will be left? How will the newspaper continue to survive? We presently, as far as our gaming revenue, support the effort that goes on there. So I believe that it should be a forum where there's perhaps more, since it is the free press, but I would like to see it pay attention to more of the tribal member news-worthy actions, whether it's children who are being successful in changing the curve for the standards of Oregon in education. I believe that when there were significant stories about our members, wherever they're at, that they should be included. There should be a real attempt to do that. Because I think that the heart of it all is to educate our tribal members. I do believe that it's a great tool for educating our members, because we are all over the nation, about our ceremonies, about our culture, about the spirituality that there is, that the revival of that can, at least the reader can understand a little bit. If I live in Florida, what's going on there that will encourage me as a tribal member to know that all of the years of our survival, we're still going on, that our culture is thriving, and that if I can participate through reading stories about our elders, stories about our chiefs, stories about our land base and our significant places, that will be great. But I also believe that we as a tribe could use the newspaper to tie us to other tribes as well. So that's just kind of off the top of my head. Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl. Brenda.
Thank you for that question, Mia. I do support it. I have from the beginning, and that I support it because I don't like any undue influence as to what is coming out in the paper. In 5 years, I think, along with Cheryl, I worry about newspapers. I used to work for the Register Guard in the Eugene area. I just think that readership is declining all over the United States. So I would like to see us develop our podcast more. I would like to promote online activities. I would like to allow tribal member to contribute as guest. I don't know the newspaper term, guest contributors. I don't know. And then I would like to see more cultural and educational material put in, like really educating even our youth. So it would come at different levels. Maybe one month we could gear something towards our middle schoolers, the next time high school, college, and yeah, I'd like to see that.
John?
Bossy, yeah, thank you for that question. I did too when it came out, and although unfortunately everybody thinks it's Chris's paper, it's too, so that we
It's not. We have a
that's
full
right,
editorial board.
that's right. And so, it's very nice of him, I know, because thanks for paying me to vote for it too, Chris, I would appreciate it, so, just kidding, did not. Because we believed that our paper should tell the truth. That's the one thing, and the opportunity to tell the truth. That is why I support that too, Mia, yes. And so, and to create that board. Because, and I think, that we do, because I think with them, it does say that, newspapers are probably not as popular as they used to be. Because I think with today's technology, to get it on the website, to see it on Facebook, or because unfortunately though, not all Facebook stuff is true, so it's like so. But for us to go in a direction, I think in the next 5 years, I think it's very important that there is the opportunity to also use it as an educational tool of who Grand Ronde is. Who are the Grand Ronde people? And what are we doing? What are we involved in? Where are we, what is the course that we're taking that could change, the whole, visibility of Grand Ronde? Those I think are the important parts of that, because I think for, like Cheryl said, I said somebody in Florida. I mean, we have members in Australia. We have them in Canada. We have, for them to be able also to see what is going on in the tribe, and I think it's very important culturally, because if our members, if we have some of our members that live in Canada, there is an indigenous native culture up there, but it's not the culture of Grand Ronde. We are the lower Columbia River, people, where we have our own art designs. We have, our own cultures and our traditions, and to be able to see that when they read about our events like that, our culture events and stuff too, they can say, yes, I'm very proud of that, because that's who I am. That member that doesn't, live around Grand Ronde and is involved in the events and such, but they can see that, and then now they can be part of it. I remember when I sat on the education committee, when they had to actually, when members had to apply for scholarships, and they asked about how are you involved in Grand Ronde. So to really almost anyone that sent an application outside of Grand Ronde said, I read the newspaper, I read the smoke signals. That was their only kind of connection, that they had the opportunity to say, I am part of, my tribe. And I think that's very important, that we continue that, but also continue it in such a way that there's no edited version of what's going on. And I think that's why I'm very highly supported everything too, and for members to be able to see that and hear it. And I would like to also say maybe even more pictures. People like to see more pictures, other than that, because sometimes if you just give pages of just typeset, I don't want them to look at smoke signals and think it's just blah, 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 blah. But, sorry, but for pictures, I think they feel like, as if, like you said, if they had a picture that was here of an event that's on the Columbia River, or there's an event down in Grand Ronde or up Agency or somewhere else, I think they could feel like they're there, that they're actually in Grand Ronde, or they're at that culture event, right there with our people. So choose.
Okay, thank you all for the So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap us up today. A couple things on the press. So Dean Rhodes did reach out to me last week, so I think he's going to write an article about these PAC forums, which I'm excited about. It sounds like they may be attending the Eugene one. So just for those folks to know, that we may see something in spoke to us about that. And I too appreciate the fact that a tribal council can't stop that. I think that's newsworthy, and I think that folks in Will should write about these things, so it's great. We are going to have our final PAC forum next week, 11 o'clock at Grace Community Church on what is it called? Country Club Road, which is near where the old Eugene office used to be. And it will start at 11 o'clock. So I invite everybody to come, share with your family in the Eugene area to come out, and hopefully we have all 9 candidates show up at that one. It really would be great to have everybody answer to the membership. You all did a great job today. I agree with Adrian's assessment that there was just really positive energy, and I was looking around the audience and everyone was really engaged on the edge of the seats listening to you all. So you guys did a really fantastic job. So let's give them a round of applause. And thank you. We always like to hear from Mike at these
Can I tell my annual joke?
Yeah, please do, Mike, please.
Okay, does anybody heard anything about Warm Springs in the paper lately? Oh, you did. You all heard it before I did. That's part of our problem in Warm Springs. Everybody knew before we knew. And so today, I want to stand up and just, preach to some of the leaders. I've been around Indian country a long time. I'm getting old now like everybody else. Cheryl's known me for a long time. Wherever I go to Indian country, I feel comfortable. I feel like I'm at home. I feel safe. If I need something, I can go to somebody in our Indian homes and say I need help. Some of our leaders are afraid to stand up now and say we need help. We need help in Warm Springs. Our government is, for years, was a model of what could happen good in Indian country. We're far away from that. I would probably be muzzled by my council now, but I believe in freedom of the press. I believe in the freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, all those things that we have that our veterans and all the people went and got for us. But our government right now is pretty much silenced us. But I just happen to be one that don't like to be silenced. So I'm the president of what we're calling our traditional elder council. And we're standing up and saying, we do not want Kanita closed. We will not have Kanita closed. So the coming days we're going to be doing some things. Our leaders won't speak up and say that, but we're going to speak up and say that. And we're going to be looking for help. So that takes me back to this relationship question. Over the years, I served on the council from 1986. And I met an old man, what's his name, Running Bear. Running Bear came to my father-in-law's house and said, we need help. We want to see the governor. My brother happened to be an administrator. I happened to be in the council. So down to the teepee we went. Who happened to be there? The governor. The Sonny Tom. The Renbroy. All those people came. Said, we need help. We're trying to be recognized. And Cheryl's right. All the tribes band together. When Dean was gone and Mark Mercier became the chairman, I was on the council, the vice chair and our chair. Well, we band together to go back to Washington. When we would go, we'd call Mark and say, we're going. Because at that time, I always call ourselves the big dog when you're on top. Because I treat Cheryl real good now, man. And she's
You always treated me good.
I see her, I hug her, tell her hello. Well, I'm all about relationships, okay?
Yes.
But when Mark would go, we knew Senator Hatfield, we knew all the big guys, because, you know, if you got money and all that stuff, then they're going to want to talk to you. Well, Mark will be right there by our side. And we say, we happen to have our brother Tribe here with us, and he needs to talk to you. You know, he has this moving through. We want to get it, and you're the big man. So he was there with us. So that's the way we can help one another. See, that relationship has to be an ongoing, lifetime understanding of native helps native. I'm a believer in that. So when I watch you, you know, my father-in-law, I told you a joke last year about my father-in-law. Well, this year I'm going to be moving around, if I have to tribes and say, we need your help. We want to keep Canida alive. So how can we do that? See, my leaders aren't standing up right now. They're telling us to shut it. No, there's nothing we can do. Just sit down and be quiet. Sorry, can't do that, guys and girls. We've been here too long. Our people have fought too long and hard to get what we have, and we're going to keep it. So I will be coming just as a man on the ground with one voice. The Creator hears, and maybe you'll hear. We need help. So I will talk to tribal leaders and say, what can we do? It doesn't always mean money. It doesn't always mean money. Same way with our people at home. We got lots of land, we got lots of water, we got lots of ground, but nobody wants to use it right now. That's part of what Canida needs. Because when people come there, they want to see all that. They want to go to it, they want to touch it, they want to feel it. And we're shutting that out right now. So Canida kind of wilts, you know, just as when you go down there, that territory is pretty small. So those are the things. So I just wanted to tell that story today. You know, when we help one another, because we know who we are. Like they say, educating the others. And the rivers, the big river, when the people came down the river. I attended a meeting in Hood River one time, and there were some of those pioneer ladies there. So, oh, you guys are nice, we really respect you. I said, well, we did too, until that man came around the corner over there, down the river. See, because they want to minimize who you are. Say, well, we were here, we just happened to greet you, you know. So everything used to be good then. All nature and all things were good. It was clean. But the river's kind of contaminated now. So when they put you in that little corner and want to make you feel that way, you can always tell the story too. And then all of a sudden you start looking kind of grumpy, you know. But that's what I wanted to come today and stand up. No joke. We're in trouble, and we need help. So we're going to be there. Are people in the States? We've had a couple of calls from towns. What can we do to raise money to help you? See? But Canida is not just a state trademark. Canida is a worldwide trademark. There are people from all over the world that know Canida. Some of them don't even know Wormsby, but they know Canida. So we're going to be sending them, I think next Saturday the 21st, we're going to do an event out there just for us to go out there and do some prayer and some worship and let the people know we don't want this place closed. Unfortunately, we have to convince our own leaders too, and it shouldn't be that way. But that's what's going to have to happen. So I'm praying today that somebody of them will come and say, okay, we hear you. We will stand with you, and we will help you keep this place alive. That's my prayer. If it'll happen or not, I don't know. We're meeting on Tuesday night with the people. We've called some meetings. When I went to get a room to meet, no room. I wonder why. See, that's when government goes awry, in my opinion. When it turns on its own people. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. That's the government structure that has to help all of us. Program services in life, right? Job, family, home, car, home. And it's tough over there. We've got 20 people living in a house, 16 people living in a house. Have to plan their gas every day. Where am I going to go? And I think back on Grand Round in the early days when we had to help. See?
Yes, right.
Quiet.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike.
John, I think John wants to do something.
Thank you, Mike. When this leadership today has been talking about how do we mend relationships with the other tribes. Mike, we look forward to you coming to visit us. We look at our economic development and our investments, and stuff too. But how we want to mend our relationships with other tribes. Because sometimes I think we looked at in some of the past and stuff too about, it's kind of like we want to break that generational thought about the tribes like that. And Mike, I sincerely, I raise my hands and apologize, for the times it seems like that the Grand Ronde had treated Warm Springs. I took the opportunity also, because I sit on a board with some Cowlitz people too, and some of their council, and I extended my hand of apology to them too, everything, because I said it's important that today, this tribal council that sits today is concerned of our relationships and how we can mend those, and how we can build better friendships with each other. And Frank talks about, looking at outside investments and stuff too. These are the types of thoughts and things that we should be considering. That we sit down as a tribal council today and see what we can do and what we can do, for our friends. Because you are our friends, our relatives too. And so I extend my hand.
I have an offer for you.
Go ahead, Mike.
One guy came to our treaty days this year for catch up a little bit. I want you guys all to come. I'll invite you to my reservation next year. All your council, when you come, I'll stand with you before my people at the Colin this week. We're all here together.
Thank you.
And we'll apologize for anything we've done to one another. But we all realize that we're one and we're here to work together. I'll stand with you, I promise.
I want to say something before the meeting.
So, Mike, I wanted to say thank you for your words. I have tears in my heart right now. At our Veterans Powwow, I spoke with a tribal council member from Warm Springs, and there were tears flowing at that time too. I know that your words have touched everyone in here in some way. And when you said it's not always money, I took that to heart, and I know that it's not. I know that we can pray to the Creator for you. And that is my promise as a Grand Ronde Tribal Council, as a leader in our tribe. I promise that I will be praying for Warm Springs, for you and all of you.
Denise.
Yeah, I would just like to, extend an offer to Mike and to go back to his leadership. I will be leaving for DC on Monday. I was recently appointed to the National Indian Gaming Association. That represents 187 of the 250-something tribes. I'll be there all week next week, meeting with many, many tribes across the country, many people from Congress. And if they have a statement or an ask that they would like me to take back, I would be more than happy to present that at the NIGA Board of Directors. And to the other tribes that will be there. I will say many times over the years I've been a part of these meetings, and when something needs to get done, even when NIGA wanted their building redone, they got a lot of help from especially the gaming tribes. So I'm very good friends with Andrew, which Kanita was named after his grandmother. and he's talked to me about that, and I do. I have a lot of friends at Warm Springs. I know good friends with some of the council. So if Warm Springs has a statement that they would like me to take back or carry back or start that process, I would be more than happy to do that. So I will be there in meetings through Wednesday. I leave Thursday morning. but if you can get something emailed to our tribe and they can get it to me, and I don't want to misstate or make a statement that's not being honored or recognized by your tribe, but if you can get something to me, I would be more than happy to start that and see what that looks like. I think that's a really good start. And that's how us tribes in all across the country can pull together and do that. So, thanks.
Thank you, Denise.
Mike,
Sure.
I just want to say what an honorable man you are. I've known your family all through the years, your parents, and your brother Rudy, who was very instrumental in helping. Really appreciate that. For folks who don't know it, his brother came to Grand Ronde, who is an educator, teacher. They're educated men in the academic world, and who came and offered his help to us. And I thank you and your family for that, for the times that was hosted at Canida, that we traveled as a council, the first council, and really appreciate that. But your family is very honorable, and you are as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Sure. Mike. All right, everybody, so we'll see you guys all next week. Please grab some food on the way out so that we don't have to haul too much food out of here, but we'll see you guys next week.